John the Baptist actually quietly revealed it to us in that gospel. A big secret. The secret to joy. He revealed the fastest route to joy that can never be taken away. It's that line where they said, "Who are you?" And right off the bat he said, "Well, I'll tell you who I'm not. I'm not God." That's probably the fastest route we could take to joy, is to be able to join him in saying the same thing. I have found that the parents who are the most joyful of all parents are the ones who know that their children came from God. They don't say, "Oh yeah, well this is my product, this child here. This is going to be a doctor." A lot of parents do say that, but they're not the joyful ones. "Oh yes, she's going to engineering school, you know." "Yeah, but she's 3. "No, she is. I've got it all planned out. She's going to be a lawyer, that one." That's not the most joyful way to be a parent. The most joyful way to be a parent is to say, "My children are on loan from God. I am so grateful that our Creator is allowing me to be the surrogates of this child, this soul." What a blessing it is. When parents realize they are not God, that the real parent is God, and that we are God's representatives, God's choice for raising these children, we can relax so much more. It means that our job is clearer. The pressure is reduced. You've heard me talk before about my Polish grandmother, my babci. She was one of 12 in a family of Polish immigrants. They moved from Warsaw to Watervliet in 1901. And when they came on the boat, they had 3 children. They had the rest of them, the last 9, here in the United States. And that's not a convenient number of children. That's not convenient, especially when it's the Great Depression and you are a Polish laborer who doesn't speak English. That is not a convenient number of children. And the family, growing up, ate a lot of soup and a lot of stew. And every time Babcia and Jaja found out that they were pregnant again, they would let the children know. And I don't know if this is a Polish custom, but it was something that was always said whenever they were announcing this news that a new baby was coming. Babcia would ceremonially talk to God. And she would say in front of the whole family, "Lord, if you're going to put another mouth at our table, put more soup in this pot." Period. And then she just totally trusted that that prayer would be answered. Utter confidence. Pope John the 23rd is one of our more famous popes from the last century. He's the one who was pope in the late 50s and early 60s. He's the most direct reason that we have Mass in English today. He's the one who convened the Second Vatican Council that allowed Mass to be celebrated not just in Latin, but in the local language. And because he was pope at a time of great change and upheaval, you can imagine how stressful his job was. And he was in his 80s, like Pope Francis is today. And so there were plenty of nights where he couldn't sleep because the problems of the church were on his mind. And what he would say is, "Okay, God, I've done what I could do today. It's your church. I'm going to sleep." That's what the Pope said to God. "It's your church. I've got to go to sleep now. I've done what I could do." And once he said that, he had utter confidence. That was the prayer that allowed him to sleep. It is ironic that for some people, the doorway to joy is when things are out of control. It is when they have absolutely no control over their lives that they feel the most joy. That's true for recovering addicts. A lot of alcoholics will say, "I found God at my rock bottom. That was where I most needed God, and that is where God was most evident to me." A lot of folks don't find their joy until their lives fall apart. And they say to God, I can't do this. I can't do it. It's your life that you've given me. You're going to have to take over. I've lost control of it. And at that moment, they can relax. They can find relief. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is to know that God is God and you're not. And we don't have to have all the answers. We need to be better at turning over the things that we have no power over. So it feels good when you retire from a job you were never qualified for in the first place. What a beautiful retirement party that is. To say, God, I'm done here. I retire from being in charge of everything. You're going to have to take over some of this. Now, that sense of relief gets even better if you can not only surrender this job to God, but then agree to sign up as one of God's workers. When the person who thought they were the CEO of life then gets to be one of the frontline workers, you get to feel such joy because suddenly now you're in the flow. You are taking orders from the real boss. And the real boss knows exactly what you are destined to be good at. And so if you follow that direction, life is going to get really good. Once we get in alignment with that flow, things start to work. The things that weren't working for us because we were trying to control it without enough information, we get to finally just give in and be part of a plan that is better than one we could have come up with. So that's why parents who know that their kids belong to God and not to them, they're so much more relaxed and joyful because they're in the flow of what parenthood really is all about. So this week, I think we are being invited to consider how unqualified we are for the job of running the world and how uniquely qualified God is. And I think we need to find ways to remind ourselves of that as we go through the week ahead and the rest of our lives. I know a woman who calms herself down and goes to sleep with this very simple breathing technique. She breathes in, and as she breathes in, she says the words to herself, "Not God." And as she exhales, she says, "Don't know." Not God. Don't know. It gives her such peace, she says. It's her version of St. John the 23rd's prayer. It's your church. It's your life, God. I'm going to sleep. Actually, I know a spiritual teacher who gives one that works even better for me. This is her prayer before she goes to bed at night. It's an adaptation of what St. John the 23rd said. She said that her dialogue with God, especially during this year, she's developed this prayer this year, is to say, all right, God, I've done the day shift. I need you to do the night shift. I've messed a lot of things up today. I did not do that good a job. There were some things that I thought I could make better, and I just made them worse, tangled them all up. I need you to take care of this while I sleep. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do next. But I know I'm going to be no good to you unless I go to bed. So you do the night shift. I promise I'll do the day shift. What a beautiful version of the serenity prayer. I have serenity to accept these things that I've gotten or not. I can't change them. But I've got courage to do what is mine to do. I'll do the day shift. I'm not trying to get out of it. But I'm going to rely on you to know better than I do. I don't know how many of you heard last week's Profile of Endurance episode with a woman who's often singing in our choir here, Julianne Horrocks. It's an amazing story. She's had transplants. She's been through surgery. She's had the greatest highs and the lowest lows. She's an amazing person living right here among us. But one of the stories she said that really stood out to me is she had just gotten divorced, and it was a very hard time. It was a very rough divorce, and she had custody of her 2 children. She had an associate's degree but had never worked because she had been the full-time mom while her ex was the breadwinner. And she was driving around with the kids, terrified because she had nowhere to live. Her lease was up and she didn't know where she was going to go. And everywhere she went was a closed door. And she did not want the kids to know how scared she was. But as she drove, she said, Lord, I give up. I don't know what to do next. I've got these 2 kids and I don't know what to do. And to make it even worse, next thing you know, she got lost and she found herself on a dead-end road. She had no idea where she was. But at the end of the dead-end road was an apartment complex. And so she thought, well, at least I can ask for directions. She walked in and she said, there doesn't happen to be a place available here, does there? And the first woman that she came across, kind of like somebody sitting out at the stoop of Bethany Village the way they do, first person she came across said, I'm actually moving out at the end of the month. You want to see my place? And it was a beautiful place. It was like a 2-bedroom place with a full kitchen. She couldn't believe it. So she knew she couldn't afford it. She said, it's beautiful, but this is all I can pay for rent. And the woman said, that's exactly how much it costs. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is when we finally let God be in charge. My Polish grandmother used to say something so weird when we laughed. Whenever we would laugh, if we were in the car and somebody said something funny and we had a good laugh, she would always, as the laughter was subsiding, say, we sure laugh a lot for poor people. And I don't know if that came from Babcha and Jaja, but I bet it did. What a relief it is when we know that we are not in charge of much at all.